Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to look at how to mix your own granulating watercolors. I have been experimenting with different pigment combinations and I found some great mixes that create beautiful granulation effects. Well, some of these I've also learned from Sketches and Scrubs YouTube video. I will link it down below because it's an amazing video, and if you are looking also for more information about how to mix your own granulating colors, I highly suggest that video. Now, of course, you can buy pre-made granulating watercolors from the store, and these are some of my, some from my collection. But one downside of store-bought option is that some of them may contain toxic pigments, for example, cobalt. And that's one of the main reasons why I also prefer to mix my own, because it gives me a full control over the ingredients that I use in my granulating mix and lets me choose more safer pigments. For today's mix, we are going to use a few granulating paints that you might already have in your palette. One of them is ultramarine blue, a very common color that most people that work with watercolors already own. It's great for granulations and works well in mixes. The one that I have here is from Winsor and Newton Cotman with PB29. The next one is Mars Black, made with PBK 11. It's also another very strongly granulating color. This one is from Gogh. We'll also be going to using Potter's Pink from Schminke with PR233. And another paint that I'll be including is this Caput Mortuum from White Nights. Even though they did not label this as a granulating color, I found that it does granulate, so that's why I'm adding it to today's mixes. And finally, we'll also be using the Chrome Oxide Green by White Nights, and I believe this one is made with PG17. It's also another great option to add very beautiful granulation to your mixes. Another option to create granulating effects is to use a granulating medium. This one is from Winsor and Newton, and in this video we'll be starting by making mixes without this medium, and then afterwards we are going to be making some mixes with this medium. According to the video by Sketches and Scrubs, which I've linked down below, a way to create granulating mixes is by mixing a granulating pigment, like for example ultramarine blue, with a highly staining pigment. Now, what exactly is a highly staining pigment? It's a watercolor that leaves a noticeable mark after when you try to lift it off the paper. You can usually check this on your paint label. There's often a small triangle or a symbol indicating how staining this paint is. On the most right side of my swatches here are my highly staining pigments. Well, right now they're still wet, so the differences might not be super clear yet. Once they've dried, I will be showing you a closer look so that you can see the difference. So here is how they look like when they are dry. Here on the left is my premixed colors. In the center are the granulating ones. Well, for example, this is the ultramarine blue compared to a phthalo blue. And the right side ones are the highly staining ones. So this is what I was talking about earlier about highly staining pigment. When I am trying to lift this red color, for example, as you can see, there will still be red beneath it, and it would be really hard to remove the color off. Probably even I would never be able to remove this color, and it will always have a certain little stain of red in the bottom. Same with this purple, I don't know if it's purple or pink, this purple one. The sketchbook that I'll be using for today's swatches is this watercolor sketchbook by My Paper World. It's 300 GSM made with 100% cotton paper. The best type of paper to swatch granulating watercolors is actually cellulose paper, not cotton. Granulation tends to show up more clearly on cellulose paper. That said, I'm using this cotton paper today because I really like how vibrant colors appear on cotton paper, because it tends to make colors pop more compared to cellulose, even though the granulation effect might not be as strong as if we were to be using cellulose paper. For today's purpose, I'll be then swatching in here, and plus it's cold pressed, so I think the texture will help bring out some of that granulation that we're looking for. The brush that I'm using today is this watercolor brush, also from my paper world. I'll be linking them down below in case you're interested, but this video is not sponsored or so whatever. So first we're going to start with mixes using ultramarine blue. And quick note, when using granulating watercolors, it's okay to use a generous amount of water. In fact, the more water you use, the more separation you'll see between the pigments. And also don't be afraid to add extra water afterwards, adding some droplets into the swatch to create blooms, because they even also help enhance the structure, the texture, and make the granulation stand out even more. So here I am just trying to mix different colors into the ultramarine blue. First I had a really highly standing sort of pink purple color. Then I also mixed in, to create this beautiful green, I mixed in yellow ochre. Into the purple that I got from the mix of ultramarine blue and the pink, I added some buff titanium. I also find that by some brands, buff titanium is granulating. Like by Van Gogh, buff titanium is granulating. I suggest you experimenting if you do have this color. And side note, please use any watercolor that you have. You do not have to go and buy extra colors just because you do not have the, let's say, the pink that I've been using here. Please just use whatever you have. However, of course, if you would like to buy more colors, that is up to you. Yeah, you can also spoil yourself every so and then, but please use any color that you have. In my opinion, if you already have the ultramarine blue, which I think you probably have, you can mix plenty and plenty of colors. And here, as you can see, I am mixing most of the time two colors. So for example, the ultramarine blue with the yellow ochre, but you can also mix multiple colors in it. So let's say you do not have an orange, you could be mixing a red with a yellow and then mix that with your ultramarine blue, etc. So please be creative. That is the goal of today. The mixes that we are making are not restricted to the mixes that we have here. You have plenty of choices, plenty of possibilities. Please try and play with your colors to create many mixes. And let me know in the comments actually if you are also mixing your own granulating colors from this video, and tell me what mix you like the most from what you have created. Is there a color that you found out and that is really beautiful and you're like, oh wow, this is my favorite now? So now that we have made some swatches without granulation medium, we are going to make some with granulating medium, and I'm going to use this pipette to get the medium out of the bottle, and that way I can also measure it a bit better. So I'm going to add 1 drop on each spot. I don't know how you call these little places where you can do your mixes, so I'm adding 1 drop in each spot. And then I will mix some ultramarine blue in one of them. So this is 1 drop of granulation medium mixed with ultramarine blue, and as a comparison, this is ultramarine blue without the granulation medium. Now I'm adding another drop, so now we have like 2 to 3 drops of granulation medium mixed with the ultramarine blue. Now to note, this ultramarine blue is from Winsor and Newton, as well as the granulation medium. So I am not sure if that does have an effect on the results that you get if you are using a different brand of watercolor. Like this second one that I'm using is from White Nights, it's the turquoise blue. The first swatch was without granulation medium, the second one is with 1 drop of granulation medium. And now I'm adding a second drop of granulation medium, and you can see this sort of weird separation in the paint where you just have some clumps of dark color with a highly staining blue water. Now I'm going to try this again with Caput Mortuum, which is a granulating color, because the turquoise blue is not a granulating color, it is just a staining color. So with the Caput Mortuum, it did seem to go well, so it didn't have that sort of a separation. Now I made a mix with Oxide Black with Quin Magenta, and again I did without granulation medium with 1 drop, and now I am adding it 2 drops, and as you can see it also separated. I'm not sure what creates this, but this is the effect that you can get with adding granulation medium to your watercolors. Note that these tests were done on cellulose paper. This is the Canson XL watercolor paper, and this is how they look like when they are dry. Here is the last tip for granulating watercolors. When applying them on a large area on your paper, when you mix the colors, you can just apply them directly on the surface. And to add a bit more of interest, you can also dab in some of the individual colors that you used in the mix. So for example, here I used a mix of butters pink and yellow. So after mixing them and applying them on the paper, I still dab in both colors separately while the paint is still wet. And this I find adds more variation and texture to the final result. And for comparison, here's the same mix of butters pink and yellow applied as a flat wash without dabbing in the individual colors. Of course, both approaches work and are both good, it just depends on the look that you are going for. There's no right or wrong, it's just all about preferences. And that's it for today's video. I hope the mixes and tips today were helpful and inspiring for you. If you've been mixing your own granulating watercolors, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what your favorite combinations are. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye bye!